Thank you for joining us on the program from the National Assembly. I'm Ignatius Nkwo. Well, the Senate has reconvened for Wednesday's plenary. At the moment, the Senate is considering a motion that came from Deputy Minority Leader Emmanuel Bwacha on the crisis between some youths among the border communities in Benue State and Taraba. Well, from the other paper, the Senate has also scheduled 6 bills for second reading. Well, one of these bills that will be coming for second reading is the bill that seeks to amend the Procurement Act of 2007. And then 9 bills will be coming for third reading. One of them is actually the 2019 appropriation bill. Well, this is what we'll be having. But now, because the Senate has already reconvened, I will now take you straight to the Red Chamber to follow proceedings.
They go out and continuously face this so-called armed militia and gunmen or headmen that come from Mali or from wherever they come from and complete this war. They have done a very appreciable job in Northeast in fighting the Boko Haram. They should therefore go ahead and complete this war within the Benue Trough in fighting these terrorists that are really disturbing Benue, Taraba, and Nasarawa states. I wholeheartedly agree with this motion, and I pray that Senate do pass all the prayers provided in this motion. I so support, Mr. President.
I'll go straight to, okay, Senator Barrow Jibrin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Senator Barrow Jibrin, I represent Kano North. First of all, let me extend my sympathy and condolences to those who lost their life through what happened in the border towns between Benue and Taraba State, between Jukuns and the Tips. It's really sad to see that we had that incident. We know for a fact that some years back, there were this kind of violence, killings between the two communities. But as said by the two speakers before me, that was stopped through the intervention of eminent leaders of the two sides. Now, these violence are resurfaced. Even though it is said that there could be the influence of certain people, the terrorists as they have been described, who came in to a kind of ignite the violence. What I want to say is that we shouldn't look at that and then treat that with soft glove, but we should try to find out how they're able to infiltrate the community, the two communities, and see how that can be prevented to happen in the future. It is really important because the bane or the problem we always have in making sure that we keep peace in this country is the fact that we don't look at the reason for any violence. I mean, the cause of a violence whenever it occurs. We should find out how these men or these people were able to infiltrate the two sides, and they were able to convince them to start this fight. And try to see how, or find out those people and bring them to justice. And not only that, create a way that this will not occur again. So it's really important we do that to make sure that we bring these people to justice. It is sad, but we need to work hard to bring peace once again to these two communities that have been living side by side in peace and in harmony, in the spirit of brotherhood, so that peace can reign in that area. Thank you, Mr. President.
Let me go straight to prayers. This is it. Let's pray. I want that the NEMA come to the aid of the victims by providing relief materials immediately. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. That the police authority should hasten the completion of mobile barracks in the border towns of Akwana, Island, and Taraba and Benue, respectively. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. and to observe immediate silence for those killed in the sad event. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. There is a. If you do get up now, additional prayer, yes, Senator Aduda.
Distinguished colleagues, Mr. President, my name is Distinguished Senator Philip Tanimu Aduda, FCT. Mr. President, my additional prayer is that there should be enough security presence, that is, the security should be drafted between the Benue and Taraba border so that there can be enough security presence to forestall breakdown in law and order.
Come again?
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my additional prayer is to have enough security presence within the Benue-Taraba border.
Seconder? Yes, Senator. Okay, go ahead.
Mr. President, I rise to second the motion, the prayers as expressed by my brother, Senator Aduda. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of that now prayer to have enough security presence between the Benue and Taraba border. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. There is a. We can now stand and observe 1 minute silence. May the gentle souls rest in perfect peace. Amen. Leader of the Senate. Point order, Senator Shehu Sani.
My name is Senator Shehu Sani. I rise under Order 43. By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, the Senator may make a personal explanation, although there may be no question before the Senate, but no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor may debate arise upon the explanation. The terms of the proposed statement shall be submitted in detail to the President of the Senate when he is leave to make it is sought. Mr. President, I stand to announce that last Friday, government stormed a holiday resort in the outskirts of Kaduna. As a result, 2 people were killed. One, Fai Muni, a Briton, a humanitarian worker, and the other, Matthew Oguchi, a Nigerian. And a couple of others were taken hostage by the gunmen. It is important to use this time to bring to spotlight the violent incidents of kidnappings that has become a way of life in Kaduna State. We are under siege. Fire Money is one foreigner that has sincerely believed in us. She was here as a humanitarian aid worker. She was here for the weak, the vulnerable, and the sick. She sacrificed her life in the service of our country and of our people. We must appreciate this sacrifice for this woman who has come here to be martyred. At a moment like this, it is important to draw the attention of those in the position of executive authority to do everything possible to address the problems of kidnappings and killings that have become a daily affair in most of our states. We are troubled as much as Zamfara and Katsina State. All the entries to Kaduna today is being taken over by kidnappers. It is the problem in Birnin Gwari local government, a local government that borders on Zamfara State. People sell their farms, their homes to pay kidnappers. Many villages have moved to bigger towns in search of protection. And these kidnappers have become so daring, even sending notices to villagers and finding them that this is what you need to pay or we'll come and kidnap. It has reached such a dangerous point. Firewood, Muni, and others who have lost their lives are heroes and martyrs, and we should appreciate them. And we should graciously not be tired of giving those who sacrificed the ultimate prize and made sacrifices for us a minute silence. I thank you very much.
Senator Shoshana has come under Order 43, which according to our rules cannot be a debate. But I think the points he has raised are very pertinent. We must, as every life is important, but I think those who leave their comfort zone to come to be with us, to help the weak, the vulnerable, in providing and improving conditions of life, we must appreciate what they've done, and when they now make the ultimate sacrifice and lose their lives in this process, our prayers go to the family of the worker, and of course continue to challenge our security agencies on how we continue to make the country safer, not only for foreigners, but even for our own Nigerians as well at all times. And in respect for that work, I think we should just also observe a 1 minute silence in respect of this lady, please. Others that lost their life in this unfortunate, let us gentle souls rest in perfect peace. Amen. Deputy Senate President.
Mr. President, you've actually ruled. I wanted to call attention of the Senate to the seriousness of the matter raised. And I thought something would have taken under 42 and probably come back tomorrow to debate this matter. It has a lot of diplomatic implications for us as a country. And it's something very, very serious. I'm sure not only Nigeria, but even the UK government will be able to see and hear what we say. Because under 43, we cannot even have a resolution. So it's something we would have taken a resolution, but under 43, which it came under, we cannot take a resolution by virtue of the work.
But if it's the leave of our members, we can bring it in at next legislative day. Senator Dume.
Thank you, Mr. President. I really want to concur with what the DSP said. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I don't need to remind us that we are representative of the people. In other words, we are the people. And this issue of insecurity, kidnapping, and communal clashes is becoming the order of the day. And I think we should go further than just bringing a motion here, observing a minute silence, and that's it. We should really find a way of going further, because it's like getting out of hand. And I support the idea raised by the DSP that we should sit down and discuss this more than that.
So DSP, I take it you have come under 42, or should I, or leader, yes, contribute.
Well, I think, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I think the DSP has set the tone. The Senate, as an institution, can approach this in a better and more informed manner by taking resolutions, including, but not limited to, sending possibly a delegation to the British High Commission to condole the British government and people in respect of what happened, and of course also sending very clear message that the Senate is prepared to go the extra mile to suggest and engage with the executive arm of government on how to take immediate measures. We have to do this. Let's see how far we can go. We have done this in the past. It has not worked properly. We shouldn't be discouraged. We should continue to engage and see where we can find accommodation and resolutions to these kind of issues that are now very, very serious and facing our country. Thank you.
So, distinguished colleagues, I'll take the leave that we take this on next legislative order. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So we'll take this on next legislative day. Leader of the Senate. Senator.
Petition.
I'll pass that one. Tomorrow. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Joseph Bolahan on the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 Alteration, Bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999, Alteration Bill 2019, SB 738, first reading.
Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999, Alteration Bill 2019, SB 738, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very respected colleagues, the second business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Joseph Bolahan Dada on the installation of carbon monoxide detectors in motor vehicles, houses, dwelling places, offices, workshops, and factories establishment bill 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, installation of carbon monoxide detectors in motor vehicles, houses, dwelling places, offices, workshops, and factories, establishment, etc. Bill 2019, SB 739, first reading.
Installation of carbon monoxide detectors in motor vehicles, houses, dwelling places, offices, workshops, and factories, establishment, Bill 2019, SB 739, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Joseph Bolahan Dada on the anticipatory opening of bank accounts for corporate customers, Prohibition Bill 2019. Mr. President, we wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, anticipatory opening of bank accounts for corporate customers, Prohibition Bill 2019, SB 740, first reading.
Anticipatory opening of bank accounts for corporate customers, Prohibition Bill 2019, SB 740, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Committee on Niger Delta on the NDDC 2018 budget. Mr. President, we wish to invite Senator Peter Nwabushi, Chairman of the committee, to move motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator Peter Nwabushi.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my names are Senator Peter Nwabushi. I move that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Niger Delta on the 2018 Niger Delta Development Commission budget. I so move.
Senator Bolahan Dada.
Thank you, Mr. President. Esteemed colleagues, I do stand up to support and second that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Niger Delta on on the 2018 Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Niger Delta on the 2018 Niger Delta Development Commission NDC project. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Peter Amabushi, come and lay the report, please. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very respected colleagues, the first order of the day is a motion standing in the name of Senator Isaac Alpha on the need to recognize Kogi State as an oil-producing state. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Isaac Alpha to move the motion.
Senator Alpha.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, motion on the need to give recognition to Kogi State as an oil-producing state, sponsored by Isaac Alpha, Senator representing Kogi East. The Senate informed that the oil exploration commenced in Ibaji as far back as 1952 in the villages of Odeke, Elchano, Ihile, Anocha, Uchuchu, Omabo, Ika, Iregu, and Uje, all in Ibaji community of the present-day Ibaji local government area of Kogi State, by 3 oil companies, namely Shell BP, now SPDC, ELF, now Total Elfina, and Agit Energy. Aware that the companies collectively drilled 25 exploration wells, 2 appraisal wells, and 8 core drill wells in the entire Anambra Basin, out of which majority of the wells fall to Kogi State, as these states were made possible through a letter to the President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, by the former manager, drilling, NPDC Engineer Sam A. Uchola, and dated 21st November 2003. Further informed that the exploration of oil activities in Kogi State and part of Anambra Basin was later abandoned until 18th of July 2001, when the executive governor of Kogi State, late Prince Abubakar Audu, wrote to the group managing director of NNPC Abuja to remind him of earlier discovery of crude oil at Odeke, Echeno, and Anocha communities in the Ibaji local government of Kogi State. Note that as a follow-up to this call, on 25th July 2001, a team of geoscientists and engineers was drafted to the area to carry out a very preliminary investigation on the claims of Kogi State government and the resuscitation of these productive core wells in the area, among other areas, prompted the granting of oil license, now known as Oil Prospecting Licenses, OPL 915 and 916, to an indigenous oil company known as Oriel Petroleum Resources, PLC. Concerned that Oriel Petroleum Resources, PLC, has been taking crude from OPL 915 since 2012 till date, and the percentages of crude oil in OPL 915 among the three contesting states are as follows. Kogi State, 53%. Anambra, 23%. Enugu, 17%. And Edo State, 7%. Regrets that there has been no drilling activity from the OPL 916, which jointly belongs to Kogi, Anambra, and Delta States, while Orient Petroleum has fully drilled 4 oil wells at OPL 915. That is wells 1, 2, 3, and 4, with 3 and 4 incontrovertibly located in Ibaji, in Kogi State, accounting for 53% of the crude. Note that consequent upon this, Orient Petroleum Resources made 3 offers to Kogi State government when the company arrived on the scene for exploration activities. And these details are that the government of Kogi State should appoint a liaison officer to act as intermediary between the government and the company. That the government of Kogi State should allocate the land to her to use as her depot, and that the government of Kogi State should buy a share of at least 500 million in the company. Further notes that even though Kogi State government has not taken up shares, the company confirmed in its official website that the Kogi State government has granted the other 2 requests of appointment of liaison officer and land allocation. Whereas the Senate may wish to know that the operational base of the oil company was in Echeno and had been there before the hostility in the disputed area, which points to the fact that the disputed area belongs to Kogi State. Worried that since the granting of the prospecting license to Orient Petroleum, there have been increased tension between and among the communities that have any direct or tangential contiguity with the location of the oil wells. Further note that President Goodluck Jonathan had, while commissioning the Orient Petroleum Resources Refinery located in Nsugbe, Anambra State, on August 30, 2012, without due process, proclaimed Anambra State as an oil-producing state. Concerned that when the attention of the then president was drawn to his official misrepresentation, he convened a roundtable on the issue, and after each claimant had made submissions, he directed the National Boundary Commission to demarcate the boundaries of the oil fields as due to the various communities. Senate accordingly resolves to 1. Urge the federal government to declare Kogi State as an oil-producing state with all benefits and privileges. Urge the governors of the 3 states of Anambra, Enugu, and Kogi to resolve the crisis between the various communities. Urge the federal government to direct the National Boundary Commission to immediately release its report on the determination of the boundaries of the communities contiguous to OPLs 915 and 916. Urge the communities of Ibaji, Iga, and Aguleri Otu of Kogi, Enugu, and Anambra states to sheathe their sword and allow peace to reign, while the National Boundary Commission delineates the correct boundaries. Urge the federal government to ensure that the displaced communities in the disputed area, as a result of hostilities, are allowed to return to their ancestral homes with compensation to the affected communities that have lost lives and properties due to the crisis. Direct the Senate Committee on Petroleum Downstream, National Security and Intelligence to ensure compliance with prayers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, you are all aware that government is determined to drastically increase our crude reserve. That is why concerted effort is being made to discover oil in many parts of the country today. Giving recognition to communities where oil is being produced will not only lower the cost of extraction because of absence of strife and crisis, it will also have a ripple effect on new discoveries. Besides, the communities will encourage the oil companies to invest in more extraction, which will raise daily production rate, meaning more inflow. I hasten to point out, Mr. President, that the fact that giving recognition to one oil community does not preclude recognizing other producing communities. In fact, recognizing an oil producing community will bring equity into play, like what is good for the goose is good for the gander. My contention, Mr. President, my dear colleagues, is that every oil producing community should be recognized and should not be dependent on recognizing the other, as every community that satisfies the criteria should be recognized. Having said that, I want to thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity to bring this all-important motion up, and I thank my distinguished colleagues for your patience, and I urge you all to support this motion without a single dissent. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, my colleagues.
Senator Otaze.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Senator Chukwuka Otaze. I represent the good people of Enugu North Central District of Enugu State, the constituency that is concerned with this motion brought by my friend, Air Vice Marshal, Vice Marshal Alpha, that Kogi should be declared as oil producing state. Mr. President, I sympathize with my colleague in the first place because this constituency, which he is representing now, have had 3 senators in the life of this. 3 senators, yes, 3. He was the second. After he took the third, then after he went, he came back. But the first couldn't come back. And during the pendency of this movement of these 3 senators from this Central District, this issue has been concluded, and this Senate handled it with Stella Odua, who is officially not here, and Yoba, that is here today. We agreed that instead of dissipating energy and quarreling amongst ourselves, that the 3 states should combine together and make a common presentation on a common front that the 3 states should be declared oil producing. And the percentage worked out because we were worried when the Lagos state was declared oil producing, but we started before them. So we were worried and we brought this issue here. And after the deliberation of these issues, this Senate directed the Senate committee upstream, Senator Alashadura there, to look into this with the Boundary Commission with a view to coming to inform us so that we will be solving a problem instead of just recreating trouble here and there and then causing confusion at home. I also understand my colleague having come back, we want to take something home. Yeah. There have people to see that he's working very hard. That's understandable. But the issue is that the committee on upstream is still handling this issue. And they should finish and get back to the Senate so that we will not be coming today. I'll come with this same motion. The next time, Stella Odua will come with this same issue. Maybe the 9th Assembly, another person from Kogi, from that constituency, will still come back and we continue, dissipating energy here. So, Mr. President, I am of the opinion that this motion brought by my colleague should be stepped down and allow Shadura Committee to give us a response to this issue so that we won't have any trouble among the 3 states. We already have had enough trouble. We don't want to continue having trouble again. Thank you so much.
Deputy Senate President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues. No, I'm not the interested party. Otaze said that it's his constituency that's the interested constituency. I'm just speaking as a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, if you look at our cost list for today, it's very, very heavy. And I think that we do ourselves a word of good if we advise our friend and colleague, Senator Alpha, to humbly withdraw the motion so that we can look at other issues in our other cost list. I would like to associate myself with the earlier submission of Senator Otazi. This matter had been visited, and I had expected him to either speak to Senator Dino, who is a more experienced senator and who has been here for a long time, to get proper guidance, or even seek the guidance of the Rules and Business Committee on what has happened in respect of this matter before now. But the truth of the matter is that even if we had not even discussed the matter, we cannot by any stroke of imagination come up with a motion to declare this state oil producing. Otherwise, one day we'll wake up and say that the whole of Nigeria are oil producing. It doesn't work that way. So I just want to appeal to my colleague that if it pleases him to formally withdraw the motion so that we can go into other areas. Because as it is now, there's nothing we can do. Even by his own admission, at the body of his motion, he said that the matter is being dealt with, is being handled by the Boundary Commission. And until that happens, there's nothing we can do here. We're not taking over the job of the Boundary Commission. So this has to be settled. So instead of us getting involved in the business of other agencies, we have enough work in this parliament to do. So I just want to appeal to him to save us the energy and time by withdrawing the motion.
Leader, anything different or so we can make progress?
Well, Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I want to suggest that our Committee on Boundary States and Local Governments should be able to initiate, if it hasn't done so already, the process of getting the Boundary Commission to demarcate these areas, so that we don't have to talk about this even in the next Senate. Let the proper action and procedure be taken. I think
okay. Distinguished Senator Alpha, maybe if you agree, what I would suggest is maybe you meet with Senator Alashadra and consult others, and then, if need be, bring back the motion. Senator Alpha, I'm waiting for your opinion.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, with your permission, I have made a motion. I'm not ready to withdraw it. The Senate can go ahead and shoot it down if it wants. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Alashadra.
The Senate President, sir, my name is Senator Tayo Alashadra, representing Ondo Central Senatorial District of Ondo State. As Senator Otazi said, this matter had been referred to the Committee on Petroleum Resources Upstream. We have sat twice. We had linked up with the Boundary Commission, and if not for the activities of the last election, maybe by now our report will have been ready. So I will plead with this Senate to please give us 2 weeks for us to submit our report to the Senate. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, Senator James Manja.
Respected colleagues, James Manager tells us out. Mr. President, the mood of the Senate is very clear. And like the Deputy Senate President pointed out, time is of the essence. We have a loaded order paper with so many very important issues before us. So since the Senate is very clear, I think I will urge you, Mr. President, to put the question. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, since Senator Alpha says he's not withdrawing the motion, let's just move forward and we'll go. So we've taken comments. I'll just take one more, then we'll go to prayers. Yes, Senator Ndume.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, we have provided the necessary advice and comments, but there is one silent point that we are ignoring, and that is the communal clashes that borders on security in that community. While I appreciate the concern of Air Vice Marshal, there is the need, I think, for this Senate to constitute a committee or a delegation to calm down the nerves of the community so that these clashes where you have displaced persons will not continue, while assuring them that this that this Senate is looking into the matter so that the people will stay in peace pending the outcome of the committee and the like. That is it.
Senator Magnus. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I want to say, sir, that I am completely opposed to this motion. If it's the issue of communal crisis and security, that is a separate issue. But if it's the issue of declaring any state an oil-producing state, this Senate has no such power. Section 162 of our Constitution is very, very clear. It says, and I read in sub 2, the President, upon receipt of the advice from the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, shall table before the National Assembly proposals for revenue allocation from the Federation account. In determining the formula, the National Assembly shall take into account allocation principles, especially those of population, equality of states, internal revenue generation, land mass, terrain, as well as population density. It goes further to say, Mr. President, and this is the crux of the matter, provided that the principle of derivation shall be constantly reflected in any approved formula as being not less than 13% of the revenue accruing to the Federation account directly from any natural resource. In this entire motion, my distinguished colleague and brother from Kogi State has failed to tell the people of Nigeria how much has been paid into the Federation account from Kogi State that will entitle them to the 13% of that contribution they have made. Without that figure, no declaration by the Senate that Kogi is an oil-producing state will entitle them to anything. Secondly, sir, to say that the procedure by which a state becomes oil-producing is not the same procedure as saying oil-possessing. They may be an oil-possessing state, but they have not contributed to the revenue of this country from oil. When they do that, they will become an oil-producing state. So if there are issues of security and all that, we can take that. But this issue of oil producing cannot be decided on the floor of this Senate by motion. It has to be decided by contribution to the Federation account. That is my...
Thank you. Prayer 1. Urge the federal government to declare Kogi State as oil-producing state with all benefits and privileges. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The nays have it. Urge the governors of the 3 states, Anambra, Enugu, and Kogi, to resolve the crisis between the various communities. Those in favor of the prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Urge the federal government to direct the National Boundary Commission to immediately release its report on the determination of the boundaries of the communities contiguous to OPL 915 and 916. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 4. Urge the communities of Ibaji, Iga, and Aguleri out of Kogi, Enugu, and Anambra State to sheathe their sword and allow peace to reign while the National Boundary Commission delineate the correct boundaries. Those in favor of prayer 4 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Urge the federal government to ensure that the displaced communities in the disputed area due to hostilities are allowed to return to their ancestral homes and compensated for their loss due to the crisis. Those in favor of prayer 5 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And prayer 6, direct the Senate Committee on Petroleum Downstream National Security and Intelligence to ensure compliance with prayers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Yes, amendment, Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I think the Senate Committee on States and Local Government is more concerned with this than the others. So I will propose an amendment that the lead committee should be the states and local government, because we are talking about carving out the boundaries, and then the other committees can be also members.
And seconding the amendment, yes, Senator Mao.
Senator Mao, Wabia not. Mr. President, I second the motion, the amendment moved by the leader in this way, that direct the Senate Committee on States and Local Governments. That's what he has said now, his amendment. Chief Priest, we are not in the shrine here. Mr. President, I move that I'm seconding the motion or the amendment moved by the leader that direct the Senate Committee on States and Local Government and Petroleum Downstreams to ensure compliance with Prayer 1, 2, and
Prayer 1 has been struck off.
Off 3.
Prayer 1 is no longer there.
I second the amendment.
Distinguished colleagues, let me put this prayer down. Is it on the same prayer? What's yes, Senator Manja?
Thank you, Mr. President and respected colleagues. The second amendment is not harmful. Okay. Remove prayer number 1 from this particular prayer. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that we direct the Senate Committee on Petroleum, States and Local Government, Petroleum, is it upstream or upstream, to ensure compliance with prayers 2, 3, 4, and 5. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you. Leader of Senate.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues. The second order of the day is the second reading of the National Institute of Legislative and Democratic Studies Act Amendment Bill 2019. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Wednesday, the 17th day of April 2019. Mr. President, we wish to invite Senator Babakar Bashir Garbai to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time. Mr. President, in his absence, as a very loyal deputy chairman, I will move the motion in his place.
Quiet, Senator Amela, leader.
Mr. President, very respected and distinguished colleagues, permit me to lead the debate of this very important bill, which seeks to amend the National Institute for Legislative Studies Act number 13 of 2011 to provide for the naming of the Institute's permanent site located at plot CCO 307 POE Abuja as the National Center of Excellence for Democratic Governance and establish a management committee for the effective utilization and maintenance of the center. The bill was read for the first time in this hallowed chamber on Wednesday, 17th day of April 2019. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, let me use this opportunity to highlight the background of the bill, which I believe will not only provide a justification for this laudable legislative initiative, but will also motivate the National Assembly to accelerate the legislative process in passing this bill into law. The NIL's permanent site, which is located at plot CC 307 POE Abuja, is an international edifice and first of its kind on legislative and democratic studies. Given the size and cost implications of the construction and provision of required facilities, there is the need to put in place a mechanism that will ensure adequate maintenance culture and effective utilization of the facilities that will enhance sustainable revenue generation. Against this background, it is pertinent to amend the NILS Act to name the building as National Center of Excellence for Democratic Governance, which shall be written immediately below the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, and to establish a management committee that comprises of members from all arms of government to ensure effective maintenance of the center. Thank you, Your Excellency. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I just wanted to ensure that everybody is following. The bill seeks to, one, provide for the naming of the Institute permanent site located at plot CC0307, POE, Abuja, as the National Center of Excellence for Democratic Governance. Two, establish a management committee that comprises of membership to be drawn from relevant ministries, departments, and agencies, and the National Assembly to ensure effective management and maintenance of the center. And three, open utilization of the center to the relevant stakeholders which cut across all arms and tiers of government. The bill is structured into 4 clauses, inserting new clauses 11A to D and amending section 24 of the Principal Act. Mr. President, very distinguished and respected colleagues, I humbly ask for support.
The President is the
2019. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Thursday, the 18th day of October 2018. Mr. President, may we invite Senator Magnus Abe to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Mr. President, my distinguished and esteemed colleagues, permit me to lead the debates on this crucial bill for an act to amend the Procurement Act 2017. This bill was first read on the floor of this hallowed chambers on the 11th day of October 2018. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, it is crystal clear that one of the catalysts for economic growth in any nation is infrastructural development. The budgetary provisions of this administration is indicative of the fact that infrastructural development is at the fore of government policy. It is therefore in our collective interest as a nation that we get value for money in the process of infrastructural development. In order to achieve this, certain aspects of the present Public Procurement Act 2017 need to be amended to give fluidity to the process and make it more responsive to our infrastructural challenges. Become evident. The Act for Procurement's invitation, it will abridge the need less time so that things are not jumping.